Mrs. Ellsberg's confrontation. On the doorstep, there is a parcel left unnoticed until someone inclined near the window from the room upstairs gets a bird eye view of a grayish blur of an unattended object. A voice of a girl shrills aloud until Mrs. Ellsberg, 5 feet 8 inches tall woman, wearing a well-fitted pink-colored pants with a fine embroidery finishing at the bottom, and a white top overcoated with a black sweater. A pair of white sneaker shoes with its Nike sign prominently distinguishable at the sides. Her face is like a glowing 16-year-old girl. She's alarmed that she needs to get her act together and pick the parcel. She seems maneuvering forcibly towards the door, pushed by an invisible yet untamed rude voice of her owner's 18-year-old teenage daughter. Go and get the parcel! Mrs. Ellsberg is only a maidservant who obeys commands. It has been 8 years and a month that she has been employed on a meager, underpaid remuneration with the Smiths. From the time she has been with the family, daily chores of the house are responsibly done without fail. This may be confirmed with the decoration of the living room, which achieves more than a glance in the eyes of visitors and guests. On one occasion, a dear friend and neighbor of the Smiths commented on the sophisticated, well-maintained interiors of the house. Your imported frescoes and enamels, artwork displayed on the wall, and other decorated items are as new as when your husband and Bernard bought them from the Italian art gallery in New York. It's been 7 years now and they haven't lost the shine. Mrs. Smith, a woman of whatever it takes to bring self-glory with deafening ego and one who interacts with high-profile personalities, does not want to put herself down. Is not shocked with surprise at all, but her nose stiffens with pride, as if it's more of an indicator than an organ to smell and breathe. Additionally, Mrs. Bernard flares up her neighbor's pride a cliff higher when she says, "Recently, my husband and I had to spend a lot of money to get our purchased artwork cleaned up and polished. I'm jealous of you, dear, that your home is brilliantly neat until date." Like anticipated, without a second notice, Mrs. Smith takes the entire credit on her shoulders. Yes, my friend, I have to see that I always do it myself. I'm so busy to keep it clean and new, and there it is. On the other side of her conscious mind, she knows that it is solely Mrs. Ellsberg's unceasing efforts that keep the house neat, and the delicious meals served on time. Breakfast at 7:30 a.m., lunch at 12 p.m., and dinner at 8 o'clock p.m. She is just in time, always. A busy schedule of upcoming meetings, which no one really bothers to know, makes Mrs. Smith unavailable as helping hand at home, and her contribution to keep the house clean, neat, is as good as nothing. And now, perfectionist yet exhausted Mrs. Ellsberg has to listen to those harsh words which often penetrates her good heart and soul like a sharp-pointed arrows shot at an antelope caught up at the middle of a road in front of a headlight of a speeding car. At most occasions, this is the scene at home. It was getting way far and obvious that selfish and unkind were her employees. She was merely a high school dropout. Her academic qualification was way below to give her a decent paying job. A single parent, a widow scarred to venture into a new job elsewhere. She knew she was obliged to work here because last winter, when Victor, her younger son, was diagnosed with a contagious, dreadful, and often lethal H1N1 virus, she was heartbroken. She was informed by a close doctor friend that her son was suffering a recently discovered viral condition which popularly known as SARS, severely acute respiratory syndromes. If not attended cautiously at initial stages, the deadly virus becomes immune to medicines and treatments, eventually leading to fatal results. With no medical insurance or financial backup, it was obvious that she had very less money to pay for her son's treatment. At that very hour of distress, the Smiths helped her son with her medical and other petty expenses. He could come over the disease in a month's time. As gratitude, she promised them that she would ever be sincere and grateful to them by working as housekeeper and maidservant at their mansion. Now she overworks under miserable circumstances, is being paid low, given food of someone else's leftover, humiliated with words. There are even burnt marks on her left arms, which are obviously human made. And worst of all, Mr. Smith has an evil eye on her. She has given everything possible for the house, including her evening, where she could have spent few hours of leisure time with her children at their small yet happy apartment. Now the owner of a big house has an intention which is nowhere comprehensible within her territory of doubts. Her sacrifices are now being simply ignored. She has pledged to herself that till her last breath she would serve the Smiths. Ironically, the final due at the hospital has been paid, but no one is ready to disclose the truth. Instead, they made her to believe that she is being paid less as part of her salary goes towards clearing up the credit at the hospital. They were just using her. The residents of the house vividly know that without her, the place which they called home will be completely in total mess. They leave every stone turned and every door closed to make her stay till the time they wanted her to, at the midst of their manipulated exploitation. It was like a murder plan of their inner conscience and a slow depletion of faith of a good woman. They could not watch a good person holding on to her little faith because they had lost theirs a very long time ago. They needed her to stay for rest of her life and be their slaves. She was left with no choice, and she wasn't treated like a servant at all. For being a servant is a noble job, whereas being or treated a slave is a God-forsaken law. Here, many rights of labor has been misspelled and tampered. Otherwise, they would have told her the entire truth, that her son's debt has already been paid. She is losing hope on her creed, and her patience is at risk. She is afraid that one day she'll start believing what the world practices: selfishness. A word of thanks and not even sorry will do wonders to uplift the sinking heart of an innocent, dedicated, and flawless woman like Mrs. Ellsberg. She, being a saint, didn't even expect a thank you. Instead, she prayed silent prayers that she would do her work at its best, and wished happy long life to her discriminators. The gripping reality remained like a permanent sky, making everything in it look smaller and insignificant. Similarly, her hard and faithful work was being dragged and drowned into the sea of wicked ignorance. These people were turning her life from bad to worse. A small appreciation in such a scenario was way far from real. On the other hand, she absorbs her tears within the realms of her pain for the sake of her children's education and the medicine for her dying mother. Seems like the world of the Smiths. The sinners are winners and the holy is slain. This is clearly observed when the family members on a moonless night dine together under artificial light of their comfort and speak miserable things about her. Mr. Smith, a man in his early 50s with freckles already visible at the corners of his face, especially near his neck, and a noticeable widening dark circle of a stout-looking man with an unshaven beard, firmly assert, "This lady is of no use. We are just pitying her. Otherwise, she would have been on the streets begging." Her presence did not bother them to say such sharp-edged words as if Mrs. Ellsberg momentarily was invisible to their eyes. There was no doubt they were blinded, but with evil intentions. Miss Becky Smith, the daughter yet to finish her high school, once a top ranker of her class, now involved in numerous love affairs and addicted to locally available drugs. Almost half of Mrs. Ellsberg's age, speaks in a slanderous manner at the elderly woman. The poor lady is left with no choice, as she, being the only breadwinner of her family, with two little feeble children and an old bed-ridden mother to feed, has nothing to say but listen. As words are dictated, she retrieves the package and delivers into the hands of Miss Becky and ignores another shout for not being vigilant enough to notice what always arrives and lies at the doorsteps. "Lady, I have warned. You need to be quicker than you are. We shouldn't be paying you if this continues. Miss, I'm really sorry, and I will not repeat it." A frowning face dipped in red-hot anger clearly discloses on the countenance of Miss Becky as she asserts, "It shouldn't happen again. Do you understand?" A voice almost drowns within her own whisper as she replies, "Yes, miss, it won't." At the end of the day, as the sun was going down, Mrs. Ellsberg has to leave early. She needs to pick her 7 and 10 years old son from her sister's place. Though at first the permission seemed non-grantable, but on Constance's pleadings she is allowed to leave early for the first time, but was warned in the deep-toned voice of Mr. Smith, "This must be the first and the last time you ask for such permissions." She replies respectfully, "Thank you, Mr. Smith, for being such a kind and considerate man." By the time she reaches the 11th Avenue Park Streets, it's almost 9:10. She has to walk about another 400 meters to reach where her children are. The path is almost outskirts of the city, and now it is very close to pitch dark, thanks to the few street lamps which are emitting enough light to display the unpaved road. She almost screams when her phone vibrates in her right pink pant pocket. She knows it's a text message alert, yet in her panic she almost drops the gadget. Her aerobatic ability, acquired from her father who was a former national level gymnastic, just helped her hereditarily to gather the phone before it fell on solid ground. Why am I panicking? I need to be composed right now. Speaking those words in her mind was a hint of Mrs. Smith's optimistic attitude. She clicks on the inbox message slot, which opens to reveal, "Sister, I tried calling you, but it seems your phone is out of reach at the moment. I've personally dropped Victor and Ivan back home, so you don't have to come here. Good night, and let me know when you reach home. Love, Sister Martha." She smiles and says to herself, I hate my phone at times when it does not display signal, and see here, I have walked this far. Anyways, the kids are fine, I don't have to worry. Saying this to herself, she turns around to go back only to watch 4 shadows converting into figures of different shapes and sizes of men. She had recently read in the newspaper that number of murders has drastically grown in the city. A week back, a 27 years old woman, a mechanical engineer who worked at the Toyota resembling plant, was stabbed and left to die. There had been vast teams of cops, detective and forensic experts along with sniffer dogs, but no one ever knew who was behind these gruesome murders. Now she stood in the circumference of the same outskirt where the brutal killings often took place. Due to limited availability of security personnel on the government's recruitment list, certain areas as where she stood was vulnerable to crimes. Staring at the approaching figures, she noticed that these men were drunk. She could sense trouble, and a biting cold wave runs through her spine as she realizes she is in confrontation with shared danger. Faces grow clearer, which suggested these men are in their late 20s and early 30s. Most of them have that villainous look, or probably she presumed it to be, as the situation persuaded her to think so. Bruises and cut marks are distinguishable on few faces, and one of them had tied a hand-made assembled bandage around his forehead. Seems like they are often involved in gang fights. Hooting and whistling increased, and she knew she hasn't read them wrong, but deep inside she wished she wasn't right. Now she knew she has to run as fast as possible. Fortunately, she was prepared for this, as she is on a pair of running shoes. These men are criminal, or will be if I am caught, she analyzes. Without losing a glimpse, she calculates the distance to the nearest area of safety. Also, she estimates if she is caught, what will be her approximate time in hand or remaining time before she is executed. Calling her sister Martha or the emergency number will be a gamble, because all she knows is that her phone has lost signal again. The best thing she does is she puts her phone on recording mode in case if anyone finds her Nokia 3110C. It would work like a black box, which would be the only way to solve her murder mystery. Within seconds, she runs towards the finishing line, which she has mapped in her mind as safe, and which is further alterable if her map is underestimated. She feels like a deer being chased by packs of hungry wolves. No doubt the men are running faster than her, but because she ran in crisscross manner, they failed to pin her down on many attempts. Catch her tonight, we've got a dead woman running. Voices of terror filled the night sky like howling dreadful beasts left loose in an urban jungle. It was nightmare come alive in real life. Being too fast, she didn't expect a ditch on her way, and her fall seemed evident. She fell with her head first, injuring her left knee as well. She almost blacks out as she feels a straining unconsciousness coming over her, and her head felt heavy. But she had enough consciousness to think that death, in its brutal and slow avatar, has stood victorious over this life of hers. She was always proved a brave woman, but she was dead scared at this very moment, because her death will build a permanent wall between her and the children. She was indebted with responsibilities towards her son and her mother. This is not the right time and the place to die, she proclaims to herself. At that very moment, she freezes and thinks, am I going to live another day? And prayed, Lord, save me for my children's sake and help these men to change their mind. As soon as her prayer was over, she tries but wouldn't see a sight or a sign of these outlaws. But she didn't stop to contemplate, gathering her courage as if it was scattered in the fields of horror and hopelessness. She limped for a while on her bruised legs, and she walks towards the road from where she had disoriented a while ago. To her surprise, she bumps into a taxi which was standing in front of an open space, and the driver asks, Ma'am, do you want a lift? At first, Mrs. Ellsberg hesitated but thought it to be the best alternative to walking, especially when she is in a crime-polluted area and of what she just experienced. Yes, can you drop me at the Brookside Society near City Museum? Oh, I know that place, the driver pleasantly replies. The car rose and she adjusts to comfortably sit at the back seat. And in true caution, the driver races the vehicle to its point of destination. She sighs in relief as she is out of what would have been the final moment of her life. She couldn't imagine a picture and an article of her mother on the front page of Daily Times newspaper. The very next moment, like most mothers, her thoughts circulates around her beloved sons, the two motivating factors which had helped her to hang on to each single day of her remaining life, especially today. She exits out of the cab like a bird set free, no blame thrown at the driver, but what has happened earlier makes her seem that way. And while she sinks her blue eyes for assisting her right hand into the inner chamber of her purse, a single note of $10 is excavated out. Before she could say, do you have change? She is bewildered to find that a car which once she rode on has disappeared in a flash of a light. It has vanished and is nowhere to be seen. She stretches her sight as far as she could, only to disappoint herself. There is not even a minute clue as to where the car took off. She can't call it serendipity because she has just witnessed a series of events which are beyond human explanation. She is more than shocked. In an attempt to explain, she is experiencing breathlessness mingled with expounding fear, yet a bizarre joy that are symptoms when someone is struck by a miracle. She rushes as fast as her feet could move. Probably this will record one of the fastest time taken to walk her way up to the 4th floor of her apartment. The pain in her joint is in no way equivalent to the joy she now experiences. At the very moment, her excitement to meet her dearest family has outnumbered every weapon of mass grief. Hearing the footsteps of their mother, the sons are much quicker to welcome her. Ma, we had been waiting for you. Ma, we had great time at Auntie Luke's house. She gave us her son's old toys and clothes. See, this blue t-shirt really fits me well. And Ma, check out these puzzles game. Mrs. Ellsberg, delighted and relieved to see her sons again, says nothing but convey a message of love through her smiles, hugs, and kisses. Her unexpected meeting with the angel who saved her life that day will always remain a mystery, but will also be a memory to cherish for a long time. The next working day, as she enters into Mr. Smith's house, the shout begins to pour. Everyone in the house is surprised that she is smiling while she is being screamed at. It's only Mrs. Ellsberg who knows that she has just met an angel and probably he is standing with her right this very moment, whispering into her ears, "I am always with you."